survey. Justify your response using statements required for writing a research problem. 5 marks.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. But so what we have agreed to do is to just highlight the areas to focus on when we are deducing a problem statement. The thinking is we will face possibly a similar question, but a different one. So what is important is for us to be able to then come up with a problem statement. So there are key areas is highlighted by Professor Chere in terms of coming up with a problem statement. One being that it has to be a simple expression, at least one paragraph. It doesn't have to be possibly a very long thing, congested, and it doesn't then show exactly what the problem is. So it also has to show who is affected and how are they being affected with the challenge which you want to try and address. So the other area which we need then also to focus on when we are coming up with the problem statement is, as an organization, what is it that they have tried, and what are the limitations or the gaps which are there. That is possibly the key areas to say the limitations and the gaps are then what we are saying is the problem, possibly. So also we have to possibly reflect on possible researches. Also maybe try to reflect on studies which have been taken, so that we then try to show that this is a problem area. Other people have done this and that, but we are still facing a problem. So in short, the purpose of a problem statement is to identify the exact gap to be filled in the study. It has to be short, possibly a simple paragraph or a simple expression. So from the question, unfortunately, I'm not reading the question. The first sentence possibly states the problem which is being faced. Then in an exam, it's then up to you as the one who is being examined, as the student, as the researcher, to then possibly, if you want to recraft it. But in this case, from what we deduced from the question, the first question, the first.
I can read it again. I can read the sentence again, the first sentence. Hello?
Hi, Leslie.
Yes, I think you can read the question so that this is where we're coming from, for those that haven't seen the question.
Okay, I had read the question for those that were not yet in, maybe, but I can repeat. But with what could I say? You're saying usually the first sentence is the one that shows the problem. So I'll reread the sentence. Business leaders are grappling with the realities of having the premises shut, relocating staff to their homes, experimenting with new ways of working, and the new realities of having to lay off vast numbers of staff. So already these are the problems that they are facing. So this is what he was trying to say. Is Kuda still in? Hello?
It seems Kuda has dropped.
Is what?
You might want to figure out.
Yakudanyora kugrupu kuti meshini yake yangodzima.
Okay. Agent yangu akanyora panze.
So for the sake of time, let's lose na zvangwa inazvo. Is there anyone ane some additions on that question? Angotipi kana pasina tofambira mberi takamirira kuda kuti azojoina. It seems
Yeah, I'm going. I think I have something I will share maybe in the chat box. Maybe we can proceed to the next question maybe for now. I think I've got an answer from the previous groups, I think.
Okay, thank you, Kero. So guys, we are moving on to the next presenters. That's Marilyn Kanyongo and Naslin Ngomo. Question 1B. Naslin.
Hi, we're doing 1C.
1C. Okay, sorry. 1B is Leah and Morvin. Morvin, tinotenda chwara. Leah and Morvin, panari pwere.
Okay, Marvin Arimo.
Thanks, Chief. You can take over.
Okay. On this. Okay, let me read the question first. It says, what 3 objectives did the group hope to address through the survey? Write the research question and its corresponding research objective. Okay, so in this case, I think I just simply matched the question with an objective. An objective is basically what we are trying to come up with. Okay, I think for the first question that says, what strategies are being employed to keep business afloat in the new normal? Question mark. Okay, so I try to come up with an objective that I can derive from the question. And I came up with an objective. I came up with an objective that says to identify new strategies to keep the business afloat in the new business environment or the new normal.
Sorry, guys.
And then on the second
Sorry, Marvin, are you able to beam?
sorry, I'm using my phone. Laptop crash.
I see ITEL, because you can as well beam on your phone.
You have Jones violence.
You Jones, kwana iwe.
Okay, I'll post something on the group so that at least Monwese can be able to reach it too.
Okay, thank you Tino. Ndokumbira kubvunza ka guys, sorry henyu maybe ndokudzosa mashure. Tiri kuita course ipi I ethical hacking here kuti ichi yatiri kuita.
Saka
Ishu hauzi wega ndamboda
baba baby
kubvunza nyara.
This is violence.
Data visualization.
Yeah, Twitter data visualization.
Let's move forward, guys. Let's move forward. Tukita ya maitrere.
Research methods.
Okay, thank you.
I should me on Spaga Jawad. Made my day.
Okay, let me just move on to the next one, which says, how is COVID-19 changing the business landscape? So I used established as my beginning to my objective. So my objective said to establish the effect of COVID-19 on business landscape. And then I'll move to the last one, which says, how was the outbreak of COVID-19 affected? How has the outbreak of COVID-19 affected companies' ability to retain employees? So in this one, I used to assess. So then I said to assess the effect of COVID-19 on employees' retention. So, and those ndakwanisa kuwa now. So I'm not sure I'm right, because my marks are I don't think that's all. So if I've left out some stuff, if someone has additions or corrections, please feel free to come forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Tino. Any additions, guys? Subtractions? Ishmael, you can add something.
I'm still finding my feet, guys.
It's okay, guys. Thank you. Let's move forward. Atina nguva yekuzorora. Right, we can go to Naslin.
Hi guys, Marilyn Diar Kutangane, the first part of the question, not the first few points of the question. So Marilyn.
It's okay. She can be mganaripo ongo presenta zvake.
Okay, last time I talked to her, okay, she's here now. She was slightly busy, so I think.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm trying to share my screen. Okay. Confirm if you can see my screen.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, rakuya manje.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we're doing number 1C. It reads, write 4 questions that the group could include in a structured questionnaire to answer any of these research questions. So, since structured questionnaire, I found open-ended questions. This is what we came up with. The first question is, do you concur to the notion that COVID-19 is changing the business landscape? So pani a Likert scale from 1 to 5, with 1 strongly disagree and 5 agree. Then the next question is, to what extent does the outbreak of COVID-19 affected companies' ability to retain employees? So we're supposed to measure that on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being to a less extent and 10 to a greater extent. Naslina, are you still there?
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay.
Okay, so per question, tukuona kuti zvoni ma workers angasati retrenched as yet, so we wanted their opinion kuti tizive kuti how to tackle if my effects of COVID-19 per organization yedu. So Marilyn ataura number 1 ne 2, I'll just conclude ne 3 ne 4 ne 5. The third one per questionnaire, the structured questionnaire was, do you have any chronic illness? We came up with that question because it is well known kuti people with chronic illness is very highly maybe vanokasika kubatwa ne-COVID, or my effects on these people are intense. So in order to do our retrenchment or our shutting down, we needed to know kuti munhu status yake yakamira sei, so that the recruitment or the committee employment vanozodila ne the best solution to our problem. And then the fourth one was smart gadget. Do you own a smart gadget, so that when you go, so that when you go kumba kwako to work from home, are you able to communicate with the rest of the group inenge iri mu company? And then the fifth one was internet access. Are you able to access the internet internet, I just mean WhatsApp, which is maybe a cheaper way of communicating. I mean research. Can you, if we give you a task in the internet, even my emails, can you reply your emails urukumba? So one was supposed to be yes, and the number two was supposed to be no. Thank you.
Are there anyone with questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We are moving on to number 1E, 1 and 2. Christy and Courage. Tisimudzire tuone wakomana.
Good evening, everyone. Okay. Let me beam. Okay, let me read the question first, then I'll share my screen. Okay. Okay, question 1E, the first part. The following result was obtained from literature reviewed by the students. Then we have a table there. Time taken by companies to shut down or close due to COVID-19. So question, the first part is saying present the results in a compound bar graph, and it has got 6 marks. So, okay, let me share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen now? Please confirm.
Yes, boss.
Okay, it's fine. Let me just put in presenter mode. Okay, so okay, it's still coming up. So what we did was because the first part is just a graph, so, and it's got 6 marks. So I think we tried to. It's not coming up. Sorry. Hello?
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
are there.
Sorry, I'm having a challenge. Okay, let me stop sharing, and I'll try and reshare again. Okay, so the first part was to draw the graph. So what we did was trying to remember we are presented with a table. So I wanted to show all the information which we got from the table so that we can actually use that graph or give it to someone, and it gives a full picture without someone referring back to the table. So just a second, I just want to. Okay, hello?
Yes, we can see the screen.
You can see it now. Okay, it's fine. So, like I was saying, we wanted a situation where we can actually give someone this chart only, and he should be able to tell the whole story without referring back to the table. So we, of course, the chart title explains what this graph is about, and also the well-labeled axis, labels on data values on different series, as well as the legend. So yeah, that's what we managed to do, and we thought that maybe with this we could get close to 4 or 5 marks. I don't know if it can give us the full marks, the 6 marks. Okay, so that's the first part. The second part now, it says, what conclusions do you draw from the graph? And it's got 4 marks. So, by just looking at the graph, you can see certain patterns. Like if you check the first 1 to 4 months, it's more okay. So a pattern starting from the blue line, the blue bar is the micro. Then the second one is small companies, medium, and it's actually okay. Actually more than half of the micro companies, 50%, closed shop within the first 4 months. And if you look at the large companies, none was affected. If you go now to the end of the chart where they don't foresee any closure, you realize more than 3/4 of large companies, they are optimistic, or they don't see themselves closing. Then if you go down, you see that almost none of the smaller companies, which is 1.1%, those are the only companies which see them as having maybe a future, okay, of staying in business. So that's the big 2 points which we see from the graph. Then maybe we can just point out that the larger the organization is, maybe the longer it takes for it to completely shut down, based on our 2 major observations from this 1 to 4 months is where the foresee closure section. Then one other thing which also noted in terms of the sample sizes, realize that for micro we only have 16, then I think the highest is 59 small companies. So yeah, the unequal sample size, of course we are using proportions here, but in terms of maybe comparing, it can also result in bias or inaccurate results. We know if you're having a smaller sample here, it's okay, but it's not okay to have a smaller sample. But if the sample is big, it doesn't matter. So in terms of the sample size, we also pointed that as another issue. So in short, that's what we managed to come up with. I don't know if there are any additions. Sorry about the background noise.
Okay, thank you. I will ask you from this side. Exam computer based, how are we expected to come up with this compound graph using a ruler and a pen, pencils, HB 12? What is going to happen? Okay, thank you.
This is Prof.
A ruler and a pencil. It's a ruler and a pencil, because this one was a theory. But what you could do, because what you have to do is just to make sure that your chart is explaining the whole situation. Because once you start presenting information in charts, you don't have to refer back to tables and everything. So try to label it well, just put your graphs and everything. But it's actually, you have to use a ruler and a pencil.
Saka kutoreva kutoti ninge wotogwinya kusiyanisa zvimagirafu izvo, pamwe ukamboisa zvisita, pamwe woisa zvidodzi-dodzi, pamwe wotoita kutopenda chese chiri chitema, zvotoita zvakanaka.
Uchita uyu.
Thank you, guys. Let's move on. Right, now on number 2, Mr. Mtete and Mr. Atmai. Take us through. Yes, I admire him. Admire.
Hi guys. Good evening. Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
I admire.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now love it.
Yes.
No.
When you can hear that's better. Okay. Our question, can someone read that for me? Our question was number 2B. Hello?
We can hear you, Admire.
Hello, Admire.
Ah, that's good. Can someone read me our question? My question again. Can someone read me our question? Then I can share with you the answer.
It's okay. I think question 2.
Saturday.
What 5 ethics should researchers adhere to when they are collecting research data from respondents? What 5 ethics should okay.
Now, what 5 ethics should the researcher be looking at? The question is not only about the ethics, the whole ethics in researching, but it's specifically on the issue of getting data, when you're getting data from the participants. So there are 5 ethics that we picked up. The first one is minimizing the risk of harm.
So Radma, are you beaming anything? Yes, but are you beaming anything?
No, I'm not beaming anything. I'll send you a document just now.
It's okay. It's okay.
Maybe
my network.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. The first principle is minimizing the risk of harm. The number of types of harm that participants can be subjected to. When you ask someone to participate in a research, it's likely that there is a risk that that person can be probably physically, psychological, or it can cause some discomfort. So we need to minimize the risk. You can't really remove all the risk, but you need to work on minimizing the risk. The other types of risk that a participant might go through will be social disadvantage, financial loss, or any just invasion of privacy in the moment. What then say for instance, if someone has participated and you're trying to protect even their privacy, but somehow there is a chance that his or her privacy might be invaded. So you need to try and cover all those things and minimize the risk. So that is the first principle, minimizing the risk of harm. The second one is obtaining informed consent. You need to make sure you've got the consent, an informed one from the participant. Okay, what they need to know is you need to inform them the parts they are taking in the research. You need to inform them what is required by them in that particular research. So when you do that, then you give them a chance to agree to your research. So you obtain an informed consent. Let them write down or sign if it's possible. It's a principle that is very important, so that when they do it, they know that they are not doing it because they're being forced, but it's voluntary. Because what might happen is maybe, like for instance, you are researching, you're doing your research, and you want maybe you say you're an assistant lecturer, right? And then when you're asking for information, you're asking for people to participate, they are your students or faculty students or whatever. So when you ask them and they don't, they somehow feel to say they are forced to participate because they might want marks or whatever. So you need to make sure you inform them, you explain to them, so that you get them to know they are volunteering as they are getting into it. Okay, so the third principle is protecting anonymity and confidentiality. Now, protecting confidentiality is so very important But all participants will typically only be willing to volunteer if they know to say their information is confidential, is not going to be published unknowingly. So we said the principle is protecting anonymity and confidentiality, and that the difference between these two is when we talk of confidentiality, we are referring to a situation where you actually, as a researcher, you know your participant, but you protect that particular participant, his information to the outside world. It's only you, the researcher, who knows the personal details of the particular participant. Anonymity, we will be referring to a situation where even you as a researcher, you don't even know the details of the participant. So those are actually two different things, but it's on the same principle to protect both. Confidentiality might be very difficult to protect if you're not careful. Because, for instance, if you are to get information and you put it as a graph, say at an organization, and then as a table, and then in one category you've got information where you have classified that information in age group, and you've got an age group where it says age 70 and above. And in that particular organization, there's only one person who is about 70. Everyone will get to know to say, oh, okay, this response came from this particular person. So all that has to be put in consideration when you're trying to protect confidentiality. So what do? An alternative is probably to remove identifiers. Just check for identifiers, things that might end up exposing your participant, like vernacular terms. You know, Mundawo, I know my terms anoshandisa. If you then use them, we would know to say, Mundawo pana bandini. So definitely India guys at this. So though geographical cues, you just make sure you cover all that. And then remember I gave you an examples of age. Then that means you can actually come up with aggregating an aggregating method where you say you add to say if a category or a column has 1 or 3, it can't stand and it's on, so it matches with another one. That is a way of trying to protect confidentiality. In one other thing we must understand in this ethics is it's not only that you are doing it to protect the participant. It can actually be your legal responsibility to make sure that confidentiality is kept, because people can actually sue you, or we can have laws that can be used against you. So we need to be sure and to make sure that kind of principle is put in place. Another principle, which is number 4 now, is avoiding deceptive practice. Avoiding deceptive practice. Look, no one would want to get into a research or to be asked to get into a research and the person who is the researcher is actually coming up with funny or deceptive practices. A person wants to know why, for one, that they are in a research, 2, and why they are in that research, and what is expected of them. Normally, that's what an individual or any person would want. But however, you need to understand that researches are different. So this principle, in as much as it is very important, it is a very conventional one. A very controversial one, right? In what way? In the sense that deception is sometimes is necessary. It's a necessary component when you are doing, say, a covert research. A covert research is a secret research, right? So when you are doing a covert research, you might not want the participant to know that you are researching on them. The participant to know the purpose of research. Like, I'll give you examples. People behave in an internet chat room. In what you want to observe them. But the moment you tell them to say, I'm observing you, obviously the behavior changes. It will not be exactly the behavior that they would otherwise present if you didn't know, or if they didn't know that they are being observed. So yes, that's deception. But you need that, because you can't be able to observe properly if you tell them. So now you understand why I said it's a controversial one. Because it's a principle that we need to adhere, but sometimes you might not be able to use it depending on the nature of your research. I'll move on to the last one. The last one is providing the right to withdraw. This right has to be there. If a participant doesn't want to participate at any given time during your research, they should have the right to withdraw. They should not be pressured or coerced to continue with your research. So the principles are: number one, minimize the risk of harm. Number two, obtaining informed consent. Number three, protecting anonymity and confidentiality. Number four, avoiding deception practice. And the last one, providing the right to withdraw. I think.
Thanks, Admire.
Now.
Don't forget to post in again. The way document come group. Any additions, guys?
Yeah, can I just add something from what Admire was saying? I just want to add one or two examples. For example, on the do no harm one, you can also include that the participants can be subject to sexual exploitation. You can also give an example. For example, if you are working with children, there's needed to observe this ethical consideration. And then in terms of the informed consent, you can also add that the participants should be willing to participate. If they are not willing to participate, then they can be dropped in from the survey. You can also add that if you are dealing with children, in normal cases, if children are below the age of 18, they cannot consent. So you can actually seek an adult or their guardians to consent on their behalf. Like on the conclusion, we can also highlight that, like he rightly put it, these ethical considerations, they can only be violated if they affect the outcome or the performance of the research. So those are just the few highlights that I just thought we can add. Thank you.
Thanks, Captain. Any additions?
Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, I think you can. I don't know, for those who are in humanitarian work, there's what we call the core humanitarian standards, where we are looking at maybe what do you call? We call them 4 humanitarian principles. So we're looking at humanity, impartiality, neutrality, and independence. So I think they can also, but some of them, of course, they've been explained already. So I think this also comes in to cover that question.
Thanks, Mr. Mdembe. I think we've exhausted that question enough. I shall call Eve and Carol for number 3, question 3.
Okay, good evening, guys. I will beam my screen. I will beam the site where we got our solution from. Okay, sorry to take a bit of some time, but I'm trying to make the screen bigger so that you can see. Okay, I hope you guys can see my screen. All right, so our question, thank you. We are doing question number 3. Using appropriate examples, examine 5 major differences between qualitative and quantitative research approaches. So here we've got a tabular format of which is comparing the two. So quantitative research uses statistics. I'm sure we all recall when Prof. Trede was indicating that, especially you guys in data analytics, you'll be dealing with numbers. So your best approach is quantitative, which uses statistics. And yeah, we'll be using those measures of central tendency. Okay, so on qualitative research, on the other hand, it uses descriptions and observations, which then makes it subjective. The next one is data can be measured accurately.
Hi, Kara. Sorry.
Hi. Yes, Hannah.
Dombrovanza, Papa Apo uses statistics. Is it like statistics as in the numbers or statistics as in the subject?
I'm a number chair. Even as
My number chair.
Kana subject, this is nongopinda, because this is my understanding, unless maybe if you've got a different approach, maybe I will stand guided. Because with quantitative data, man numbers and just like we are doing with econometrics, some data sets, and then we are then going to use my models. We're going to use the knowledge statistics, the module, or the field statistics to be able to come up with models, so my outcomes or my answers to our research problems. So I don't know if you've got a different view on that.
No, I was just going for the idea kuti statistics anti, it can also be descriptive as well. Kutine the descriptive and the inferential part. So tarazo separator, but I get it. If it's like the numbers, it's fine.
Okay. All right. Thanks. All right. So moving on, we said data can be measured in quantitative, and then in qualitative, data can be observed and not measured. Then the next one, considered to be objective, like we've indicated earlier, under quantitative, and then the qualitative one is considered subjective. Reason is because we cannot measure. We can't measure. We are basing on someone's experience or explanations. These are not discrete figures or facts. And then the next one, it uncovers measurable data to formulate theories and facts and uncover patterns. That's the quantitative research approach. On the other hand, qualitative research helps to understand the underlying reasons, opinions, and motivations. And then moving on to the next one, quantitative mainly uses hypotheses. Then the other one either uses hypotheses or research questions. In terms of data collection, the quantitative methods are highly structured, and then data collection methods in qualitative are unstructured and sometimes semi-structured. The sample population is large when it comes to quantitative research, and then the sample population is small in qualitative. That's what we got. Additions are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Kero. Any additions, guys?
Yeah, I think we can also add the paradigm, which the quantitative part in terms of the paradigm, it's originally from the positivism, which means the reality exists. So the reality exists, and then if it's qualitative, it means we are originating from the paradigm is the constructivism. It means we should have to construct the reality because the reality does not exist. And then again, we can, in terms of differentiating, we can also include in terms of the example, Yamato that notion for both the quantitative and the qualitative. I think that can also help in terms of aiding the difference between the two quantitative and qualitative. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Jimmy. I think Kero also share our document more group for the hope of us. Any additions before we move forward? Okay, Tim, you can take off. Number 4. Jimmy and Tinashe Marume.
Guys, now I'm not going to team atichi. Sorry. Like ndanzwa bad. Like zvanga zvine mabig words akawanda. I honestly didn't understand. Tanchimonzwa ma Jaguan and yeah.
All right, here we go. Saka tomukumbira kuti ataure in layman language.
Simplify, maybe, yeah, layman terms, please.
All right.
Ndachitaura about kuti they can be differentiated based on my paradigm. Paradigm shift. Itsvo rakambataura ake my slides ake kuti if we're talking about my quantitative, about quantitative, it's originating from the positivism. Yatiri kuti the reality exists. Ndo zvachingura kuti yatiri kuti positivism, kuti reality exists. And then if it's qualitative, it means we should have to construct the reality. So it's originating from the constructivism paradigm. That's ndo my big words and understand. But the constructivism, show kuti the reality does not exist. We should have to construct the reality if we are using qualitative research methods. And then the tools that I've highlighted, we can also differentiate them based on the tools that we are used for quantitative and also qualitative. Giving my example, like my focus group discussions, my key informant for my qualitative data collection method.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Tim, unogona kungocontinue zvenyu.
Tapiwa ndotaka kana kuti wozopedzera.
Yes, question 4. It's you and Tinashe.
Tina. Okay, it's okay. I can present whatever I have, and then Tinashe will add. Sorry, I won't be able to share my screen. I'm reading from the laptop and then using my phone to connect here. Thank you. Question 4 is saying, provide a rationale for conducting literature review in business research. So in terms of unpacking the question, I think the question is just looking in terms of what is the importance of literature review in business research or in any research. Why do we do literature review? So in terms of attempting to answer the question, we've highlighted that literature review helps in terms of building knowledge from the field that we want to research on. For example, if you want to research in terms of climate change, you're actually trying to understand the patterns or some of the research that have been done in the field of research, trying to gain an in-depth understanding of the field that you want to look at. And then the other thing is literature review is mainly done to familiarize and get an in-depth understanding in terms of the current research that has been done before, and then trying to understand the gaps that can be bridged by the research one is intending to take. So in terms of the reason one, to demonstrate understanding, that's the first reason that we've put forward. So to demonstrate understanding, so we've validated that literature review help in terms of getting an in-depth understanding in terms of the problem, in terms of the gaps that are existing in terms of the already existing knowledge from other, be it journal or other articles regarding that field. And then to justify the research. So we have also learned that literature review is key in terms of justifying the research. The research can also be justified using like the gaps. What are the gaps that exist? And then it also helps in terms of understanding the problem, which the problem also helps in terms of the formulation of the research questions and also formulation of the research or the research objectives through literature review. Then it also helps in terms of setting up a theoretical framework. It is the base of developing a theoretical framework in terms of understanding other frameworks that have been used regarding that particular area you are actually working on. For example, if you are working in let's say, for example, you are working in food security or livelihood, you can actually understand other theoretical framework that have been adopted. For example, you can talk about the sustainable livelihood framework. You can actually appreciate how other frameworks have been developed on that same field, and then that will also help in terms of developing a framework that will guide your research in terms of the discussion, especially on chapter 4, whereby you'll be discussing the results. It also help, and then it will also help in terms of developing a methodology. So the way we are saying literature review helps in terms of formulating a methodology in terms of how are you going to collect the data, how are you going to do your sampling, and also the designs in terms of your research. It will also help in terms of examining the strength and also the weakness of the existing research. And then it means those weaknesses and strength, they actually help you in terms of positioning, correctly positioning your research in terms of the existing gaps. It also helps in terms of appreciating the method, the data collection methods, and also the analytical techniques that can be used for the research. All those things we get them from the literature review. Then again, the other reason that we do literature review is to support your own findings. So it means on chapter 4 mainly, you also need to actually rubber stamp some of the findings that you have found during the research, because those findings should actually be related to the literature review that will have been done. One example that I found is, for example, you can actually find that in your research finding, they can be contrary to other research that have been done. So literature review help in terms of identifying the patterns. For example, one example that I found is, for example, our study suggests that pigs can fly. So it means this has an implication in terms of the bacon production. So it means the literature review helps in terms of understanding the patterns in terms of some of the findings that have been established by other researchers that we have in the same field. Yeah, in a nutshell. I don't know, Tapio, if you want to add something. If there are no additions, I think we can rest our case. Any additions or subtraction from the presentations? Thank you.
Okay, just to maybe summarize or just repeat some of the stuff we said. You discover kuti when it's a literature review, we are comparing different schools of thought, and then eventually you get to a point where you also need to make your own conclusion or your own drawing from the literature that you've been addressing. And then which means you also need to add to the body of knowledge with your own understanding and point of view of in relation to the problem in Ngeripo.
Thanks, Dino. Any additions? It seems Apana. It seems Captain Timmy Warova. Now let's move forward. Number 5A, Gauss Markov and Mike Mutena. I think awapa. And I'm tarisa papa names apanakoaon. So ameno anyone angangotipo a rough idea on that question. Can I find a result down as it was say? Ungotipo a rough idea. I think that's what you see that. Kanapasina, we move forward, but I think as the discussion gatongo isi yakadaro. I would try to find someone and gango fungo ndangomjerero kuti ango itewe yoyo. Tizongo tipata mona. I think
I think I may try. Mungonda Sisto. I think the question wants us to plot a scatter plot, and so it's saying we must use. Let me go back to the question. We must use the knowledge score as the independent variable. So the knowledge score should be on our x-axis. Then, sorry, I'm losing breath. Then the calcium intake would be our y variable. So we have to plot the two. To plot the scatter plot and see and observe the relationship between the two variables. So the first part is just the plotting, where you put your knowledge score as your independent variable, which is your x-axis, and the calcium intake as your dependent variable on your y-axis. Then this part B is saying describe the relationship between the two variables based on your scatter plot. So after doing the scatter plot, we will have to observe if there is a linear relationship that is being formed and see to which direction is the relationship is. If it's linear, it's either positive linear relationship or negative linear relationship. If it's positive, the relationship will, if you draw a line or look at the scatter, there'll be coming from 0 going, it will be a line going diagonal from 0 going towards, let's say, the point where we have analyzed there. I think we've got some 2 dots that are there. So if it goes towards that direction, it's a positive relationship. Then if it comes from the y-axis, let's say from that dot going towards the x-axis diagonally, it will be a negative relationship. So depending on the plot, that is how you analyze or interpret the relationship between the variables. And if it's exponential relationship, it will be a curve. It won't show a straight line of some sort. Or if there's no pattern, like they're all scattered around, then it might mean that there's no relationship irrevisible between the 2 variables. Then part C, yeah, pana Pearson panetsa. The following results was obtained after the data were analyzed using Pearson correlation coefficient. Explain to a novice researcher the results. The results of the Pearson on that table. There I got stuck. I thank you.
Probably I could just add what I know about the Pearson coefficient, and then maybe someone anokonozo buttons at that interpretation the table apple. So the Pearson coefficient inongoshanda, like what Tendai was explaining about interpreting the scatter plot. So can the Pearson correlation coefficient can I eat it like a perfect value 1? It means there's a perfect linear relationship between the variables, like at a scatter plot. If it's closer to 0, it means there's no linear relationship between the variables. And then there's the aspect of kanatako compare RE2, we're checking the correlation coefficient, is it increasing for one variable and decreasing for the other, or are they both increasing or are they both decreasing? So if they're both increasing, then that means the relationship, I think it's positive. Like that whole explanation and get pure na tini wuti the direction ichi kwidza, like upward direction, or tseka, depending on is the correlation coefficient increasing or decreasing for both variables. So I think I'm not sure about interpreter table here, but I think we're now checking what I don't know. I think like the knowledge score and the calcium intake. I don't know Paxo interpreter table, but then that's what the Pearson correlation coefficient is about. So anokwanisa ukuzozviisa mutable, maybe I'm gonna also explain.
Thank you, Anna. Any additions, guys? Start move forward. Kuna nato pinto. Any additions? Ishmael, you can take us through C1 and C2. Ishmael and Tinashe Deniri. Ishmael, kana usina kuita unoti ana kuita. Okay guys, ngatungoita kuti zvatangoita apa kana paine wani zvavanokwanisa kungoshare pa question 5. C1 and C2 Ishmael wanyarara asi aripo zvake. Guys,
I think for sake of progress, kana pasina togona move on. Tozo research to shit.
iripo. Thank you Anna. Saka ukazowana something uzotudzota kutombopa iwe for the meantime. Sazorari usinoti focus feedback. Thank you. Guys, takwenda pa May 2021. 2019 question I think rapera. Takwenda pa question paper ra May 2021. So number 1 A and B we have Mishek and Nancy. Pari mwedo. Kandimbotarisi tuone. Mishek or Nancy. Mishek ndambomuona but it seems a dropper asimo. Nancy is not there. Saka toita sei futi papa guys. Tongofambira mberi kana toita sei. Then I have question 1 C, D and E. Auxiliary and Dumi. And score owner. So for progress sake, I think I'm going to allocate question 1 A and B. Kuna sorry guys, ndakumbokupa yo. Question 1 and A and B ndakumbopa Moses and Mobimaf. Moses Mbira and Mobimaf. But no score question 5. I think Mninga or something. Then question 1 C, D and E. I'm giving Mr. Lakson Chikwara, Kudakwashim Judge and Mr. Kimpton. Question 1 C and D. We are now moving on to question 1F. Topindo and notion. Question 1F. T Amureo.
You say that
Sorry, Angachi and then sorry.
I
think Jeremiah was trying to wake up on something, but from what I was trying to ask myself, Chananda Totazongwana a response on is, what is it that are we going to set the significance level for ourselves, or after we set the significance level, maybe we set it at 0.05, I don't know, and what is it that we were saying, Patroboti supported and not supported? Are we going to say supported is that we reject the H note and not supported is we fail to reject the H note? Those are some of the questions. Zananda Bunzo Jeremiah, when we're trying to do it, I will come back to you after that's one and a solution, but maybe I guess it's not in. We can try to assist one another from there to Naguti what could be the module answer since Tagaratine. The info yachona iripo pa the diagram wachona rakanyorwa irero. Thanks Notion. Sorry guys, I was actually on a sabbatical on Snap. Thank you. We have prepared something for this question. I'm not sure if you are hearing me.
Yes, we
Yeah,
can
we
hear
can
you,
see the
Joseph.
screen of Kevin. We can hear you. Thank you. I want to believe this is the question. We are doing 1F for this question.
As the notion have already alluded, to tell you the truth, I'm not aware of what is a structural equation modeling. It was difficult for us. We tried to search on the internet. Of course, there's theory which is there, but from the understanding which we've done, we just present, then we will tend to be guided, and we want you guys to be open on this question so that you'll be able to look and critique it. But this is what we have managed to gather. The question starts from in a paragraph on another sheet. I think I'm failing to get that one. If there is someone who have it, I may drop this one so that you can read from that side. That then from the question here, where we by now analyzing this table. Unless Karamama to Jitaka. Hello, guys. If I lost you?
No, we can hear you.
We can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay, it's okay. So I'm now analyzing this table. We make sure that you read from that side so that you'll be following, because it's quite a lengthy paragraph. So I just want to read from this side so that I will just use the table. I will just use the table. So you make sure that you'll be referring to the real table and the notes which are actually on the question. Right. Right. The answer requires us to put the words not supported and supported. So our decision, we have derived them. I've tried to work out the decision, how we've come up with the not supported or the supported. I will start with the hypothesis 1. The way how we've reviewed this hypothesis is it's saying PEOU, whereby the PEOU is standing for perceived ease of use, right? So the results obtained in this study demonstrated how attitude intended use, which is UI, of mobile apps, perceived usefulness PU, and perceived ease of use PEOU, and social image SI, perceived risk PR, and intention to use IU as related factors that either or not directly improve use of mobile banking. Ndo pari kubva hypothesis yedu apa. Right? So I will read again. The proposed model was empirically tested using data collected from the online survey, applying structural equation modeling. So the results obtained thereof in the study demonstrate how intended, which is UI, PEOAU, SI, and PR, and UIU as related factors that either or not directly improve mobile banking. Saka ndo patiri kubva apa ndo pata derive our hypothesis. So the ones which are showed in the first column of the table of non-standardized coefficients, the first column written hypothesis, we have treated them as now hypothesis. Sorry, not as now, as the alternative hypothesis. As alternative hypothesis, so we don't have an H note here. So on each and every aspect, we are treating each as a what? An alternative hypothesis. So these ones are the ones which we've put in red. So PEOU, which we say is standing for perceived ease of use, is a relationship with attitude, which is significant to or in improving banking system. That's a what? An alternative hypothesis. So the now hypothesis here, we are saying PEOU and attitude have no significant relationship in improving banking systems. Then the now is now the one we say have a significant relationship in improving the banking system. Mukangobata one yacho yo kumberi kwesachanetseki. Saka I've colored them red, the one which we are given in the table, and our now hypotheses which have been explained here is red. Now our analysis, we have used column 2 and column 4, which is the estimates. These estimates are actually coefficients, the non-standardized coefficients, the BIs, and then the p-value. This p-value, we have assumed that it is a t distribution. Reason why we've taken it to be a t distribution, here we are now, it's now like analysis of variables. If you remember on your starter, when we were talking about issue of starters, we said we first of all evaluate a model on overall level, then we come to evaluating it on variables, right? So now on overall model, we'll be using the F distribution. Then on the variable analysis of variables, we are now using the T distribution. So here we have used the T distribution. Now these are the two columns which have assisted us in making the decision. So we'll start with the first row. On our first row, we have discovered that the PEOU, which is the perceived ease of use, explains 21% of the attitude variable. Explains 21% of the attitude variable with a probability of 0.058, which is
Hana. Sorry, Jobindo. Hana. Hana. It seems that's good things, but you can continue.
Yes, yeah. The organizer can mute Hana. The organizer can mute Hana. All right, let's continue. Right. So with a perceived, with a probability of 0.058, if you are seeing where I'm highlighting here, and this probability is greater than 0.05, which is 5% a significant level. So if you are using p-distribution, we will fail to reject H naught and conclude that PEOU and attitude have no significant relationship in improving the banking system. Right. So all this one, I was just displaying how I've come to the decision. But our question is just saying, add a column to the right of the table and provide the decision made about the hypothesis tested by the researcher using the words supported and or not supported. So the words which are just required here is supported or not supported, which are the ones which I've highlighted in yellow. So here under this row, we will say not supported. I think you've seen where I'm coming from. Then under row number 2, where we're talking of PEOU, relationship with the PU, we say it's supported. What is being supported here? We are rejecting H naught and concluding that POU and PU have a significant relationship in improving banking system. Why? Because PEOU explains 61%
Hello.
Topindo.
Jeremiah twasero.
Ah,
Apa topita atita zvepachidhingi chechi angositika.
ameno taita sei Topindo. Asi ari kuna hana here because maendero acho asi right.
I think he is having some network challenges.
Hi guys, I think from maybe just to conclude it or to allow us maybe to have a direction on how we are going to work on it. So the assumption is we reject H naught and that is supported, and we fail to reject H naught that is not supported, basing on the p value, comparing it to the assumed alpha value we have set the significance level of 0.05. That is like if you try to follow those on H2, right, which is 0.00, which is like 0.00 is less than the significance level of 0.05, then we fail to we reject and the H naught, right? So our supported. If we go on to the next one also, which is 0.000, which is less than the alpha value, right? We reject the H naught. If we go on to H4, which is 0.134, 0.134, I believe it's greater than 0.05. That is not supported. We fail to reject what the H naught and it. If you go on, I think the H5 is the same as it, and H6 also 0.007, which is less than 0.005. That is, we reject the H naught, right, which is supported. We go on to H7, which is 0.003. Also, it's less than the alpha value of 0.005, which is supported also. We go on to H8, 0.006 is less than the alpha value of 0.005, which is supported again. The last one, maybe the H12, which is 0.104, which is greater than the alpha value of 0.05, which is we fail to reject the H naught, which is not supported. Hello?
I know.
Yes. Look, like the line of argument, when you say not supported, we mean we are failing to reject the H naught, and when you say supported, we reject the H naught, comparing it to the set alpha value of 0.05, the significance level.
Thanks notion and Jeremiah. Inini hangu ndandisina chandandiri kuziya pakwese, but munenge mamundifura. Jeremiah, but you did a good job.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Sorry, notion to ngobvunza again. Tangata define our H naught as what? There is a relationship or there's no relationship? What was the hypothesis?
Normally, by default, there's no relationship.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Dr. Angel.
Okay, hi guys. I think well, this is just a comment inogona kutibatsira even in terms of matest atinoita ku-econometrics kuti H naught yese H naught in every test tichitaka inenge iri no whatever it is, kana iri heteroscedasticity. We're saying kuti H naught is saying there is no heteroscedasticity, and kana iri autocorrelation H naught inenge iri there is no autocorrelation, and it is then in terms of rejection or accept criteria to accept whatever result you're just saying value is less than 0. Whatever the reject H note, then can it greater, we're saying accept H note. I think if you just keep that at the back of your mind, it's in your interpretation. But if you have that at the back of your mind, kind of with autocorrelation, you know the H note and rejection criteria.
Thanks, Angela. Sorry that I was put out. Can you maybe repeat? I think I may learn from there.
Okay, I was saying to make our life easy in terms of my H note and my we're saying to make our life easy in terms of my H note and rejection or rejection criterion identity. We are saying in terms of even my test at for econometrics and to test for heteroscedasticity or autocorrelation. It's by default with every H note in HT, there is no whatever it is that we're testing for. And then the alternative in HT, whatever we're testing for is there. Let's say take for example autocorrelation, and we're saying the default is H note is there is no autocorrelation. Then the alternative H note is this autocorrelation, and then when it comes to the rejection criterion, we're saying the p-value if it's less than whatever level of significance that negative pure, it means that we are rejecting the H note. Then can irrigator we are retaining the H note.
Okay. Yeah, so somewhat it's correct to some level. Only that I wanted the Gross Markov. Then Angaripo on this one. True, Angela. But it's not always when it is greater when you always reject. It depends with the type of distribution. Is it an F distribution? Is it a T distribution? On OT distribution is opposite. When the p-value, when it is greater, then we accept H naught.
Yes, that's true. But we're saying in most of I think tend to consider is it a normal distribution or a T distribution like you're saying. But I guess in most of my now assuming it's a normal distribution, if I'm not mistaken. That stands.
Yeah, true. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. I think we have exhausted enough. Dr. Jones, you can take us through number 1G. Hello, Dr. Jones. Network zone zodona seko. Okay, guys, let's move forward. Tonde chigwanyika. Tonde and Chido. Tomboti fried tingati chi. That was question 2. Question 3. Tinotenda. Is Tino in? Tino is not there. Question for Chinofung and Clement. Tapio. Engineer Chinofung. That's good. Era question 5, Mose and T Sam.
Hello, let me try to present.
Thanks, Mose. Thanks, Mose. That's number 100.
No, number 5 here.
Alright. It's Mose. Sorry. And that's not sorry. That's not one number 5.
Ndabunga pamoda ndiita overload ga.
It's not going to go foot. I'm not really number 1 yet. It's okay, you can present. Hi, Mos.
Yes, I'm trying to present. Just what? Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, of course.
Alright. So let me read the question first, right? Let me look for the question. The question reads, discuss the following data analysis tools with specific reference to what they are or when they are mostly used for, assumptions made in how hypotheses are stated. Give an example of a set of hypotheses for each tool. Then the first one is Pearson product moment correlation coefficient. So I'll start by defining the Pearson product moment correlation coefficient. Right, is a measure of the strength of a linear association between two variables and is denoted by R. Basically, a Pearson product moment correlation attempts to draw a line of best fit through the data of two variables. Then from there, I'm going to read out maybe the assumptions. All right, first let me read out the Pearson correlation coefficient values, what the values mean. And the Pearson correlation coefficient R can take a range of values from +1 to -1. A value of 0 indicates that there is no association between the two variables. A value greater than 0 indicates a positive association, that is, as the value of one variable increases, so does the value of the other variable. Then the last one, a value less than 0 indicates a negative association. I think probably someone on board explained these terms before. I think I know something. Then from there, maybe I read out the assumptions of Pearson coefficient. The first assumption reads, your two variables should be measured on a continuous scale. Then I've included some examples for clarity purposes. I will forward the document in the group. Then the second assumption, your two continuous variables should be paired, which means that each case has two values, one for each value, one for each variable. These values are also referred to as data points. I've also included an example for that, for clarification. Then assumption number 3, there are about 7 assumptions. Right? Assumption number 3, there should be independence of cases, which means that the two observations for one case should be independent of the two observations for any other case. Then assumption number 4, there should be a linear relationship between your two continuous variables. There's an example put on that. Then assumption number 5, both continuous variables should follow a bivariate normal distribution, although in practice it is frequently accepted that simply having univariate normally in both variables is sufficient. Then assumption number 6, there should be homoscedasticity, right? Which means that the variances along the line of best fit remain similar as you move along the line. Then the last assumption, there should be no univariate or multivariate outliers. Then there's an example for that. Then on hypotheses, H0 for Pearson coefficient is the population correlation coefficient is not significantly different from 0. That is, there is not a significant linear relationship between variable x and y in the population. Then the alternative hypothesis, that is H1, the population correlation coefficient is significantly different from 0, right? Then I've also included an example for Pearson correlation. Then go to the independent sample t-test, another 2 from the question. Then the definition is it compares the means of 2 independent groups in order to determine whether there is statistical evidence that the associated population means are significantly different, right? Then common uses, the independent t-test is commonly used to test the following: statistical differences between the means of 2 groups, and also statistical difference between the means of 2 interventions. Then go to maybe the assumptions. The assumptions are almost similar with that of Pearson's correlation. So there is a summarized version for that, and also a detailed version. So let me just read the summarized assumptions of the independent samples t-test. Assumption number 1 is assumption of independence. You need 2 independent categorical groups that represent your independent variable. I've also included an example of that. Then the second assumption is assumption of normality. The dependent variable should be approximately normally distributed. The dependent variable should also be measured on a continuous scale. Then the last assumption is assumption of homogeneity of variance. The variances of the dependent variable should be equal. Then the hypothesis for that, I'm not sure if this is correct, because it is contradicting with what Angel was saying before. My H note is the 2 population means are equal. Then the alternative hypothesis is the 2 population means are not equal. That is all, Mr. Ngwan. Any additions or subtractions?
No additions from this side. Thank you, Mosi. I don't know if there's any additions from that team.
I actually have a question, but it's referring to the previous question that we just did on the one that Jeremiah and partner did. I think I heard Jeremiah saying the p-value that we were looking at was for the t-test, but now looking at the use cases of the t-test that were just presented now by Moses, it shows that the t-test is not used to measure significance of relationship. I'm a bit confused there, because I thought maybe the p-value for the previous question that Jeremiah and partner did, it was for a chi test, which measures the relationship between 2 variables.
Anyone to assist, guys?
Can you come again with your question?
Okay, I was saying when Jeremiah presented on the previous question here the structural equation model, he mentioned that the p-value that we are looking at there is from a t-test, right? But now looking at the use cases of the t-test as mentioned by the previous presenter now, it shows that the t-test is not used for measuring significance of of relationship between two variables. But Jeremiah had said it was measuring the relationship of variables there. Sorry for the background.
Yeah.
So that's where I wanted some clarity with you. Which tests, which p-value were we looking at on the first, on the question that was presented by Jeremiah and crew?
Yeah. I'm not sure, but what I just want to add is the if we're doing a t-test, we want to compare. Well, we are comparing two means. Yeah. We're actually comparing the two means, but I'm not sure in terms of the specific question that you are referring to, whereby the p was involved.
Okay, in the previous question, we were trying to assess the relationship between the variables, that is the perceived use of what and those variables that we had with the arrow. So we're trying to determine the nature of the relationship, right? So that's why I'm saying which test produces those p-values, because Jeremiah said it was a t-test. But now looking at the use cases of the t-test as presented by the previous presenter, it doesn't talk of using t-test for assessing relationship between two variables. It only talks of the means.
Yeah. Hey, pamuchapanyararwa zii. Sure, munhu mari kubvunza question is very, very important. Right, when we are talking of the means, mean does not mean that we are not testing relationship. We may talk of saying, I think when Moses was presenting, he mentioned that there is the issue of testing of a relationship between the two. It can be either two associations or two groups. He may beam again, and then you will see that exactly he was talking about relationship there. The chi-square which we were talking about, it's association. I'm not sure a relationship and an association if they are the same also. Thank you.
Okay, point taken.
Thanks, team. Yambodzokere kuna vanhu vandamboasaina number 1 waya ndinoti pane wazombotraya kuita we Mobi. Mobi hako. Mr. Chikwara. Hakuna munhu. Mr. Mjaji. Hakuna munhu zvakare. Kimtoy. Zii zvakare. Guys, toita sei? Mobi you can rejoin. Unogona kuita. At least Mobi aresponda. Toita sei guys? Vanhu havasi kubatika.
Yeah, I suggest that maybe we break for today. Probably maybe people they are winding down their week.
Alright, topinda wazotoshingirirwa zvikana 9 wanga wasikuda kusvika Alright guys, if you suggest kuti break then we can call it a day. Tongomira wasina kuita guys, itai mapresentations edu aita mapresentations mozongotisendera dzaraita apo mugurupu.
Okay, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Thanks guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.